darkness, my own.
You don't hear much about them now, but for centuries, fraternal societies were as much a part of the fabric of daily life for many adults as driving kids to soccer practice and scheduling play dates are today. TV and later the COVID-19 pandemic greatly impacted the importance of societies such as the Oddfellows, the Elks, and the Lions Club. Yet for the longest time, one's fraternal society was a source of friendship, social capital, and the basis for one's charitable work. And probably the most famous, or infamous, of those orders is the mysterious group known as the Freemasons. But what do Freemasons actually believe? On the surface, the Freemasons appear to be a group of usually old men who meet at the lodge to play cards and enjoy a tall, cold one. But for centuries, both church officials and the general public were concerned about the Masons. That's because the organization has always been shrouded in secrecy, with rumors of pagan rituals, quasi-polytheistic beliefs, and to hear some tell it, a tendency to secretly pull the strings of government, finance, and world domination. Even Sherlock Holmes thought so.
The handshake and the ring, Watson, are archaic rituals preserved by the 33rd degree members of the secret order of Freemasons.
That, or they really are just a bunch of men enjoying each other's company and doing good charitable work and riding in parades, which is the version of the story they tell. So what's the truth? According to the Straight Dope, the group that eventually came to be known as the Freemasons likely began as a trade guild. At the time, the secrecy that governed the society's existence was likely at least partially due to the need to keep outsiders from learning valuable trade skills, masonry specifically. But there was also a religious aspect as well. The Freemasons allowed anyone to join as long as they believed in God, regardless of their specific religious beliefs. And that was way too inclusive for the Catholic Church. This was centuries ago, of course. Around the 17th century, the focus of the group broadened from actual stonemasonry into a society of wealthy, educated gentlemen discussing the latest trends in philosophy, like a book club for morality. It was also the time when the society became entwined with deistic beliefs, an idea that the grand architect of the universe was just that, a godlike being that created the world but has no further influence in its existence. The inclusivity and secularism of the Freemasons put them at odds with all sorts of conservative establishments, especially the Catholic Church, and for a while, Freemasonry was outright banned. As a result, the Masons were traditionally anti-monarchy and pro-republic and constitutional government, which explains why founding fathers such as George Washington and Benjamin Franklin were a part of the shadowy club. These days, Masons are still required to profess belief in a higher power, either the grand architect of the universe or for the individual Mason, the god of their own religion, in order to join the group or stay in it. However, the Straight Dope also notes that when a Mason achieves the highest rank, the tea is spilled about what the group secretly purports to believe. That god is actually a being they call Yahweh, who is an amalgam of the Hebrew god, a Canaanite god, and an Egyptian one. Of course, few, if any, Masons actually believe all or any of that, but all the secrecy and initiation rituals of Freemasonry help promote the brotherhood of man. That sounds good on paper, but the downside is made clear by the overwhelmingly male membership of the Masons. Women were only allowed recently through offshoot chapters. That's not the only way in which the Masons have struggled to adapt to the modern world. Many conventional lodges refuse to accept anyone who is not a white male, a struggle that continues to this day. So women and minorities run their own Masonic lodges, completely separated from the traditional bands of old white men. It's a strange, archaic, and unwritten rule that sours the Freemasons' modern reputation. Hopefully, the organization will come around and return to its inclusive roots. Yabble and willing. Check out one of our newest videos right here, plus even more grunge videos about history.
Brother Franklin, all men are created equal. Indeed, Brother Washington, all Freemasons meet as equals, and we have an opportunity to create a nation in the very essence of Masonic morality. It would be wonderfully symbolic, don't you think?
You'll be wanting to put the all-seeing eye on our banknotes next.
You think I'm taking it a bit far?
Please don't ask me questions like that, Brother Franklin. You know I cannot tell a lie.
Oh, come on, Brother Washington. Everybody lies occasionally, surely, especially politicians.
Not me. Not even so much as an alternative fact.
We must all be aware of fake news.
The people must be free to think what they like as well. We can have no thought police in our new society. The foundation stone of our new nation built on all those principles that we hold dear.
The plans for our new capital city already have a very Masonic feel to them, yeah?
Candidate for initiation into the order, I'm giving them a little introduction into some of our mysteries. These two gentlemen are founding an entire nation built on our principles.
We have great promises for our new nation. You know, I wonder if other presidents after me will also be Freemasons.
Many will be. And Freemasonry will become embedded in the American culture. And the eye will appear on the banknotes.
Oh, God.
These principles will be honored with a gift from your French brethren. A gift that will be a welcoming beacon to the poor and oppressed.
This is the statue we are giving you.
It's a bit small, isn't it?
Oh, this is a maquette. The real thing is bigger. Much, much bigger. I call her Liberty Enlightening the World.
Catchy.
America will produce a great many great Americans from many different walks of life and many different fields, and many will be Masons. Sportsmen, actors, writers, soldiers, filmmakers, businessmen, inventors, astronauts.
What on earth is an astronaut?
No, they're not.
I don't follow.
Well, they're not on Earth, they're in space. In fact, Brother Buzz Aldrin was the second man to walk upon the surface of the moon.
That's the best thing I've heard this evening.
What, that a Mason walked on the moon?
Man on the moon. Amazing. But don't forget the musicians. Do not forget the musicians.
Known as... That's rule of three again. The 3 degrees!
Freemasonry has burned as a blazing fire through the last 3 centuries.
As permanent master of these 3 lodges, I now call on my deputy masters.
Most worshipful Grand Master, on behalf of the Brethren of Royal Somerset House,
Most worshipful Grand Master,
our ceremonies and forever remind us of our incomparable heritage, the birth of organized Freemasonry,
stressing the deep and sincere loyalty and affection felt by the Brethren of the United Grand Lodge of England for their Grand Master.
We leave the Royal Albert Hall even more proud of our ancient institution.
Most worshipful Grand Master, I humbly ask you to complete the initiation of this worthy candidate for Freemasonry.
I hereby read the text of a letter sent today to Buckingham Palace. May it please your Majesty, we, the representatives of over 200,000 Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, most respectfully express our continuing loyalty to your Majesty's throne and person in this, the 66th year of your long and distinguished reign, of His Royal Highness the Duke of Kent, as our much loved and greatly respected Grand Master. We humbly thank God for preserving our order and fervently pray his blessings on your majesty, so that our loyal devotion to your majesty may long continue. Given at the Royal Albert Hall this 31st day of October, Anno Domini 2017, Her Majesty has been pleased to reply in the following terms. The Queen has asked me to thank you for your kind letter of loyal greetings on behalf of the representatives of the Freemasons under the United Grand Lodge of England, which are being celebrated on the 31st of October at the Royal Albert Hall. Her Majesty appreciated your thoughtfulness in writing as you did.
I had the pleasure of meeting 136 Grand Masters visiting from overseas at Freemasons Hall yesterday. Today, though, we are a meeting of more than 4,000 gathered from all around the world, from our own constitution and beyond. When the global Masonic family comes together to celebrate our past and to renew our own pride and confidence in and enthusiasm for Freemasonry.
An advocate for the craft all over the world, continuing 3 centuries of distinguished royal tradition at the very heart of English Freemasonry.
To order, brethren!
To order, brethren, to receive the most worshipful Grand Master.
I've talked about this guy by name, and I don't think I bothered to formally introduce him. Isn't he a cutie? This is Edward Alexander Crowley, also known as Aleister Crowley. He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast, and he changed his name to Aleister Crowley so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666. In 1904, Crowley had a communication with an extraterrestrial being named Iwas. And this being, through his wife, kind of a channeling type operation, brought forth a book that was called the Book of the Law in 1904. And this book declared that the slain and risen God, i.e. Jesus, had stepped off the throne, and that a new God, the crowned and conquering child, was taking his place. And as a result of this, Crowley proclaimed the end of Christianity and the start of Crowleyanity. Obviously, the guy had no self-esteem problems. In fact, he was a brilliant genius. He could play 8 chess games blindfolded. He was an accomplished poet, mountaineer, painter, writer. He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world. And he was also the most dangerous man of the 20th century. And he began doing rituals to bring forth this crowned and conquering child. And he began to start what he called the cult of the fascinating child. And in doing this, he uncovered, without knowing it, the royal secret of Masonry. And what happened was, a gentleman came knocking at his door after he published a book. And in this book, it was a book of poetry, and in the book he had made an allusion to something. And this guy, his name was Theodore Royce. He was a German occultist and the head of the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which stands for the Order of Eastern Templars. There's the Knights Templar again. And this Theodore Royce told Crowley that he had given away the greatest secret in occult history. And Crowley said, "What do you mean? I don't even understand it." So the guy promptly initiated him on the spot to the 9th degree of the OTO and then explained the secret to him. And you're about to learn what this secret is. The secret is that as a Mason, you are promised immortality. If you go to a Masonic funeral, you will hear them discuss the immortality issue. You will hear them promise that they will go to the celestial lodge above and live there forever. How do they get this immortality? They don't believe in Jesus. The name of Jesus is not allowed to be mentioned in the Blue Lodge of Freemasonry. And while there are probably many Masons in this nation that are either nominal or even professing Christians, that doesn't enter into this discussion because it's not mentioned in the funeral. Where do they get their promise of immortality? Simply, the secret that Crowley uncovered, probably through demonic intervention, is the secret that this immortality is conveyed through tantric sex magic. And the kind of sex magic that we're talking about here, unfortunately, is the sexual violation of a little child. Crowley taught that the way you could live forever was by vampirizing little children sexually. And he personally bragged of having slaughtered 150 male children in 1 year. This is why he was called the wickedest man in the world. And this, I apologize that this is so horrible, but Masons are doing this. Not all Masons, please understand me. Probably 1 in 100 knows about this. But this is a significant enough problem that I feel compelled to share it with you. In our ministry, with one accord, we have had to pray for literally hundreds of people who are the relatives of Masons. Either children, grandchildren, nephews, nieces, whatever, and they have been sexually violated by their Masonic relatives, often in Masonic temples. This is why the Masons believe that they will live forever. They think every time they defile a little child, they steal some of that child's youth. And if you notice, children are sexually abused do age more rapidly because their innocence has been stolen. What happens then is they believe that they are accessing alternate universes, alternate realities where they can become as gods. And I believe that this is why, because this man has been was doing these kind of rituals right up until his death in 1947, that we today have an epidemic of child abuse on our hands. Now, the final thing I have to share about this, and then we're going to be closing for the break, is the meaning of this. And this is a very mysterious symbol, which, you've heard all sorts of explanations for it, but I'm going to give you the Masonic Illuminati inner meaning of what this means tonight. And it's going to probably gross you out and astonish you, and I apologize in advance for that. But this is what it means. Crowley reveals the secret behind the all-seeing eye symbol in one of his books, the Book of Thoth, which is a very advanced manual on tarot card readings. And this is the eye of Lucifer. But believe it or not, it corresponds to a human organ that, for lack of a more delicate term, we'll call the rectum. And which is kind of ironic when you think about it, that this represents Lucifer. And what this refers to is that the occult archaeometric doctrine of Masonry is that by accessing alternate universes through sodomy, especially of young boys, you can access alternate dimensions of reality through what are called the tunnels of Typhon. Now, you remember I showed you earlier a map of the Tree of Life. Well, everything in magic, like everything in the occult, has its yin and yang. It's positive and it's negative, it's good and evil. There's always this dynamism. And so therefore, just like there is a tree of life, there is also a tree of evil. This is called the Qliphot in Hebrew, which translated means harlots. And you'll notice here that all of the names are all evil. And these Typhonian tunnels are the paths between these 10 evil worlds. Now, if you want a little bit more on this than I have time to get into right now, you can read the book Lucifer Dethroned, because it does go into it. But here is what is ultimately involved. There is a belief that through this sexual perversion, they can access these tunnels into alternate universes, alternate realities. And the goal of this kind of magic is to find your own universe and become the god over that universe. This buys into the modern day physics theory that there's many, many dimensions of reality. Maybe you've read about that. Alternate universes. It shows up in science fiction a lot. And then once you're the god of this universe, you can start sucking the energy out of it. And you can use that energy through this child to live forever and ever and ever. And there are men, I have met several that claim to be hundreds of years old. Now, of course, are they lying their lips off? I frankly think they are. This is a deception. Satan is deceiving these people to draw them into all kinds of profound evil. But the important point is not, does this really work? The important point is, do these people believe it? And sadly, they do. And this broad genre of magic is called, and here's a nice big word for you, Transuguthian magic. And all that means is it's magic that goes into trans-Plutonian space. Space beyond the planet Pluto, which they believe is beyond the pale of the sun and therefore beyond the pale of the Judeo-Christian God. They believe there are gods out beyond Pluto that are far more powerful and far more dangerous and far more deadly than either God or the devil. And that's what these beings, these men, are trying to access. Now, please understand me. I can't say this strongly enough. Only probably 1 or 2 out of 100 Masons is doing this. But that's more than we need. Amen? I mean, this is such a problem that we are actually, I now know of 5 national support groups that are helping people that are survivors of Masonic ritual abuse. This is that serious a problem.
1997 yılı Türkiye Masonları açısından çok önemli bir yıl olmuştu. İlk defa Mason mabetlerinde gizli çekimler gerçekleştirilmiş ve bu görüntüler Kanal 7 televizyonunda günlerce yayınlanmıştı. İki ayrı locada çekilmiş olan gizli kamera görüntüleri hem Türk halkını hem de yüksek derecelere ulaşmamış Masonları şoke etti. 1738 yılında İstanbul'da kurulan ilk locadan bu yana gizliliğini koruyarak gelen Masonların görüntülerinin deşifre edilmesi ve Masonluğun gerçek yüzünün gözler önüne serilmesi günlerce konuşuldu. Adayları tanıdınız. Serdar Büyüküstün, mesleği elektrik mühendisi. Aykut Erensoy, mesleği elektrik mühendisi. Kenan Ali Akman, mesleği serbest ticaret. Adayların kimlikleri anlaşıldı. Onları içeri aldınız. Sayın baylar, her şeyden önce bize söz vermenizi istiyoruz. Aramıza alınmanız kabul edilse de edilmese de bizim düşünce odası dediğimiz o karanlık bölgeye girdiğiniz andan başlayarak şu ana kadar görüp işittiklerinizi ve bundan böyle burada işiteceklerinizi, gözleriniz açıldıktan sonra da göreceklerinizi hiç kimseye söylemeyeceğinize namusunuz ve onurunuz üzerine söz verir misiniz? Sayın Aykut Erensoy, evet, söz veririm. Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün, söz veririm. Sayın Kenan Ali Akman, evet, söz veririm. Soruşturucu kardeşim, adayları oturtunuz. Sayın Serdar Büyüküstün, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz? Metal bir parça, kılıç. Sayın Aykut Erensoy, göğsünüze dayanan ve bir elinizle size yoklatılan şeyin ne olduğunu söyler misiniz? Kılıca benziyor. Kılıcın göğüslerinize dayandırılması, verdiğiniz sözde durmazsanız yaşamınız boyunca pişmanlık duyacağınızı ve acı çekeceğinizi bildirir. Herhangi bir yanlış anlamaya yer kalmaması için şunu da öğrenmek isteriz. Aramıza girmek isteyen kişi gerçekten siz misiniz? Sayın Aykut Erensoy, Mason olabilmek için size verilen başvuru formunu hiçbir etki, baskı altında olmaksızın salt kendi istem ve buyurultunuzla siz mi doldurup imzaladınız? Evet. Adayların birinci yolculuğu yapmalarını sağlayınız. açıklamayacağım. Masonların amaçları doğrultusunda çalışacağım. Masonların amaçları doğrultusunda çalışacağım. Özgür masonlar büyük locasının ilkelerine bağlı kalacağım. Özgür masonlar büyük locasının ilkelerine bağlı kalacağım. Üyesi olacağım locanın toplantılarına düzenli olarak katılacağım. Üyesi olacağım locanın toplantılarına düzenli olarak katılacağım. Birinci Nazır kardeşim adaylar için ne istiyor? Bilimsel gerçeğin ışığını saygıdeğer üstad. Doğruyu ve bütün bunları süsleyen kardeşlerim adaylar için ne istiyor? Bilimsel gerçeğin ışığını saygıdeğer üstad. Çekicin 3. vuruşunda bilimsel gerçeğin ışığı verirsin. Uçları size çevrilmiş bulunan kılıçlar bundan sonra yaşamınız saldırıya uğrarsa masonların sizi savunacaklarını simgerim. Bu şok görüntülerin hemen ardından yayınlanan diğer çekimlerde ise Türkiye Masonluğu tamamen deşifre oldu. Bu görüntülerde yalnızca 33. dereceden masonların katılabildiği şeytana tapma ayini icra edilmekteydi. Ayini yöneten büyük üstad, locanın ortasında kesilen bir keçinin kanını içiyor ve İbranice bazı dualar okuyarak şeytana tapma ayinini sonuçlandırıyor.
authentic first time ever on film reenactment of secret Mormon temple ceremonies that even most Mormons have never seen. And those who have sworn never to reveal these secrets under penalty of death.
The execution of the penalty is represented by placing the right thumb under the left ear, drawing the thumb quickly across the throat to the right ear, and dropping the hand to the side.
All of us who've been through the temple have sworn solemn oaths consenting to having our throats slit and our heart and our vitals torn out.
The execution of the penalty is represented by drawing the thumb quickly across the body and dropping the hands to the side.
In the Mormon temple marriage, the partners are sealed to each other for time and all eternity in Mason-like rituals. And without this ceremony, no one can enter the presence of Joseph Smith and become a god.
Pay, lay, air.
Brother Pratt, having authority, I wash you preparatory to receiving your anointings for and in behalf of John Kimball, who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
Sister Bradford, I wash you preparatory to you receiving your anointings for and behalf of Eliza Barrett, who is dead, that you may become clean from the blood and sins of this generation.
I wash your head, that your brain and intellect may become clear and active.
Your eyes, that you may see clearly and discern between truth and error.
Thousands of occultic ceremonies each day are performed for the dead, so that they too can receive the benefits of Mormonism. Mormons are encouraged to have encounters with the dead, and it's not uncommon for demons impersonating the dead to appear to Mormons stating that they've been converted to the Mormon church in the spirit world, and now want their family history traced.
Your loins, that you may be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth, that you may have joy in your posterity.
Your vitals and bowels, that they may be strong and healthy and perform their proper function.
Your breast, that it may be the receptacle of pure and virtuous principles.
Freemasonry is the best kept secret in the Christian town. Even Freemasons themselves, the large majority, are ignorant of Freemasonic teachings. So when you're approaching a Mason, when you're approaching the issue of Freemasonry, you're going to be dealing with the problem of ignorance. However, once educated, the Freemason is faced with Christ or the Lodge. And I hold that you cannot be a Christian and an informed Mason at the same time without being in some kind of rebellion against Yahweh. Why? First of all, there's some preliminaries. Christians affirm, and it is universally true, transculturally true, transchronologically true, that the biblical God is the only true and living God. And in Jesus Christ, we have the self-revelation of God in space and time. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. In order to become a Freemason, you must affirm belief in a supreme being. It matters not, according to Freemasonry, what your individual deity is. But you have to say yes to the question, do you believe or affirm in the existence of God? If you say no, you're out. You're blackballed, and they really do have white and black balls, and take a vote. You must believe in a supreme being, and it doesn't matter what the supreme being is. It can be Krishna, Allah, Brahman, Vishnu, God in quotes, etc. Now, Freemasonry will take these men who believe in different deities, even the Christian men, bring them into the lodge, and in ritual, and this is key, the canon of Freemasonry are rituals produced by grand lodges themselves. So they will take these men who believe in different deities and pray to the great architect of the universe. And each Mason silently reads his God into the great architect of the universe. A canopy God known as the great architect of the universe. This God is prayed to in lodge in collective syncretistic fashion. And this is detestable to Yahweh, according to the scriptures. One prayer, for example, in the first degree, they pray to Almighty Father of the universe and grant our present convention that this candidate may be, by the pure principles of Freemasonry, better enabled to display the beauties of holiness to the honor of thy holy name. This is theology. Almighty Father of the universe, a prayer of sanctification for the candidate, no matter what deity individually this candidate believes in. And yet, the Christian is there, potentially the Muslim is there, the Hindu is there, the Unitarian Universalist is there, and they're all praying to the great architect of the universe for the sanctification of the candidate. So, in the lodge, we have the great architect of the universe, and he is prayed to in a syncretistic fashion. Secondly, the lodge, the Masonic Lodge, takes all these men who believe in different deities and, through the ritual, gives them a way of salvation. And Jesus Christ is not in the picture. For example, Freemasonry takes the working tools of actual Masons. They build stone walls, cathedrals, etc. Takes the working tools and invests them with salvation and other forms of theology, universalistic type theology. The lesson on the common gavel, I'll quote it verbatim from Ritual. As operative Masons, they use the common gavel to break off the rough and superfluous parts of stones, thereby fitting them for the builder's use. But we, as free and accepted Masons, are taught the more noble and glorious purpose of divesting our hearts and consciences of all the vices and superfluities of life, thereby fitting our minds as living stones for that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens, that spiritual building. What is going on here? Here's the scenario. Men representing different deities, the lodge saying that in the common gavel, in its lesson, by the teachings of Freemasonry, we are chipped off and fitted as living stones for that spiritual building, that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. But if you look at 1 Peter 2:5, Christians and Christians alone are called living stones. Christians and Christians alone in 2 Corinthians 5:1 and following have the hope, only have the hope in Jesus that we will be fitted, that we will come to that spiritual building, that house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. How dare the Masonic Lodge wrench these two biblical texts from their contexts, and apply them to those who reject Jesus Christ. And Jesus isn't even mentioned in the ritual. This is why Freemasonry is a non-Christian cult and is directly opposed to the gospel of Jesus Christ, and especially tied with the gospel, the purpose of the incarnation of the blessed Son of God, Jesus the Christ. Finally, in the third degree, the candidate plays Hiram Abiff, a Masonic hero. Hiram, historically, they say, was slain by 3 ruffians in the temple. And he was raised by King Solomon with the strong grip of a master mason. Symbolic of the candidates now, the candidate playing Hiram in this death and burial and resurrection scene. Symbolic of the candidate identifying with the death, burial, and raising of Hiram Abiff. And in many a Masonic ritual, we are taught, or candidates are taught, to imitate the great Grand Master Hiram Abiff.
In the Red Sea, all the disciples looking out on the multitudes to feed. Lord,